Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday, October 20th meeting of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. We welcome you to the Wyndham Garden Hotel and wherever you might be watching around the world on Zoom. My name is Tom Collette, your Sergeant at Arms for this Rotary year. Before we begin our program today, just a reminder for those of you watching this meeting after the fact on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. And also, if you're a guest of the program today online, please identify yourself in chat. We'll recognize you later. If you're a Rotarian here with a guest, after we run through our initial phases of the program, remain standing with your guest. We'll introduce them at that time. We will begin, as we do every meeting, with song and pledge and invocation. We'll start with the song. And since the World Series begins tonight with the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series, we thought we'd sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. You ready? Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the Gators. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. And now please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now with our invocation via Zoom, Ian Fletcher.
Let us pray. Yet another day we give thanks. Uplift every Rotarian and provide them with opportunities. We lift those that need to overcome hopelessness. We lift those that need to overcome the lowest point emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Those that are in need financially, meet their every need and reveal your hope in every circumstance and situation. Encourage every Rotarian that is dealing with various medical conditions. Bring a solution, comfort, and healing to medical issues. Let us continue to pray for our city, state, and country. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. If you have a guest here today, members, remain standing. If not, I see none. Do we see any on the chat, Matthew? I haven't seen any to this point. We'll check that again. Now we have a couple of announcements from fellow Rotarians. First, again, via Zoom. Please welcome to our meeting today, everyone, Bob Mounts. Bob, it's yours.
All right, Scott Winsler has asked me to announce again that November 6th, Friday, November 6th, is the deadline for submitting Ethics and Business Award nominations. And as we've said before, it should exemplify the Rotary 4-way test and service above self. And I've suggested at the very first announcement I made that look for someone who has, as an employer, particularly taken care of their employees during COVID-19 and as their customers as well, in a way that benefits not only the business, but the entire community. So the nomination form is available from Scott Winsler, or you can email me and we'll get it in. We have 1 nomination so far and 1 pending from the chamber, but we'd like to see a couple more, and don't hesitate to renominate somebody that you submitted last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. And now we have an announcement to be made live here in person from the Wyndham Garden Hotel today. Please welcome to our podium, Marcia Eubank.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are working on starting our reading safari again. I've been speaking with Kelly Costumo at county office, and she set it up on Zoom. So we're visiting the zoo via Zoom. And it's going to be 2 afternoons a week. And it's with one group of children, 15 children at Metcalf Elementary School. And the first on Monday afternoons, they'll be reading a story with the zoo people. And then on Thursday, they'll be doing a craft with them. And as Rotarians, we are supporting them with the books and the things that they will be doing for their craft activities. And if you would like to visit and witness it, there will be in your email a way that you can fill out your volunteer application, because we can't even go with the reading safari on Zoom if we don't have our applications in. So that will come through on your emails, and that is all I have. And I think they did it yesterday afternoon for the first time with the 15 children at Metcalf Elementary. And Kelly's secretary said that it was really, really interesting and the kids really enjoyed it. So thank you. Look in your emails if you want to be a part of it.
Thank you very much, Marcia. We have a craft talk today. And to introduce our craft talk today via Zoom, here is Jenny Van Hart.
Good morning, everyone. I have known Mia Jones for many years. I have first met her as mum of Jalea Smart, my little sister in the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program in 2003, I think. God, it was a long time ago. Jalea was in elementary school back then. She's now a graduate. I think she's even might be paying her own bills. Mia is a social worker extraordinaire. Her heart is big and welcoming, and she's already a Rotarian as a human being. She just needed the pin. I am proud to call her a friend, and I am so happy she was keen to join our fun. Please help me to welcome my friend into our Rotary family, Mia Jones.
Thanks, Jenny, with the great words. I would say she's right. So there's a lot that 3 minutes to talk about myself. I think I probably spend most days talking about myself, maybe 30 seconds. But as she said, my name is Mia Jones. I work for a company called Partnership for Strong Families, which of course spans 13 counties within the state of Florida, Alachua County being one of those counties. And my unit is responsible for the placement and services of those children needing foster care placement. So it's definitely something I've been doing since Partnership came along in 2004. And I definitely enjoy the work of working with the families and children that I get to meet along the way. One of the new things I've been doing over the last couple of years since my daughter went off to college and graduated, she's also has her master's in social work, and she's on her way to be licensed. And she works in Tampa with children in schools as a therapist for those children. But one of the things I've been doing in the last couple of years is working as a trust-based relational intervention practitioner, which is a certification I received from the Texas Christian University. And the work is extremely rewarding, working with kids from hard places. And we define hard places as kids who, for whatever reason, either from a hard birth or either, from adoption internationally or within the United States. And those children may need a little bit more. And the parents also need a little bit more in order to help attach and to work with those children behaviorally. So I work with a company called Genesis Family Enrichment Company. And we do nurture groups with our local families, as well as training with parents. So that's what I'm into right now. And I really, really love it. And every now and then I get to sing somewhere in a choir. I do not sing solo. In a choir, but, as a side hobby from there. I think that's pretty much probably that covers the gist about me. And I think that's all I got.
Mia, thank you. Thank you very much. That was a great craft talk. And what's most impressive is that after I butchered your name 3 times in the induction to the club, you still came back. And so I'm most appreciative that you have forgiven my 3-peat of errors. And so when I do see you, I will coordinate that you get your 4-way plaque, your pin, this year's theme pin. I want to get you a 4-way test coin so that you can keep that close by. And we're very excited to have you in the club, and look forward to the day when things settle down and can see you more here. So thank you for that great craft talk, and big welcome arms to our club. Eric Jewell, you're correct. Great job, Tommy, he said. What a great job. He's done an amazing job so far this year for me, and just step in any role. And he has so many more talents to me, so I can just sit back and allow him to cover anything. And I really appreciate it, Tom. And no bad jokes. Even though we do miss Charlie and Pete, we actually skipped over, that painful moment today. So, but look forward to you guys being back. Couple quick announcements. Saturday is a Vibrant Club seminar from the district. It's this Saturday, October 24th. It is via Zoom, no live. But there'll be some different things talking about Vibrant Club, obviously, in how to be one and work closer to that. Spoiler alert, I've been told as many that can attend will see that we have been recognized for some awards for last year's accomplishments. I do not know what. I do know that, they said be there and be able to enjoy in that celebration. So if you can attend, the information was sent out. We will send that information out again before the end of the week if you'd like to dial in and attend that. Saturday is World Polio Day, so keep that in mind. This Saturday, also the 24th, and I'll just say that look out for some pretty cool announcements for our club related to World Polio Day. So by next Tuesday, I'll be able to share some more information with you, and I think it's pretty neat in getting some things brought to the surface for World Polio Day. Finally, Craig Carter has organized the first blood drive for this year. They'll be here Tuesday, November the 10th. I know that in me personally getting calls that, blood levels during this pandemic have been very, very low. And I know many times they reach those critical levels and they've continued to battle that. But November the 10th, they will be here if you can plan accordingly and maybe be able to be a part of that. So without anything else from me, I will go back to Zoom for Jenny Van Hart to introduce our speaker today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Matthew. Mary Berge, a Rotarian since 2002, has been a speaker and trainer all around the Rotary world. She is a practicing clinical psychologist, so I know our club will have plenty of fodder for her next research study. We're not saying we're crazy, Mary, but please welcome Mary to our club as today's speaker. Over to you, Mary, keeping it short and sweet.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here, everybody. I want you all to think of this next 20 minutes or so as your virtual session with me. You're on my virtual couch now, and I hope to be able to answer some particular questions about how to change yourself. You know, most people, when they come to see me, they are typically looking for something to change, whether that is the elimination of a behavior or feeling or process, or the introduction of something new into their life. Some sense of change needs to occur why people are typically coming to see me. And essentially our lives are made up of a series of habits that we play out through the day. And sometimes when we want to change a series of habits or something that's happening in our lives, we find ourselves faced with large barriers or resistance to that change. So I want to help you today with some tips on making changes easier for yourself. I'm going to give you some hot little tips on how you can do that to better ensure that your changes will be long-standing and meaningful. So let me first talk about why sometimes change is difficult for people. First of all, uncertainty plays out. You may not have all the details about how to change, so you can feel very uncertain about what to do first to create a change in your life. Having low confidence, not feeling that you have the skills to succeed, can breach your ability to change. Anxiety and fear in general, just about the unknown of what that change might entail. And then, of course, there's personality. Some people are just really resistant to change more than others. They just have a low tolerance, irrespective of whether the change is going to be beneficial to them or not. They seem to have a low tolerance to changing. But the number one reason why people don't follow through with the changes, especially like when they come to see me and they say they want to change this, the number one reason that they don't succeed is effort. They're not putting in the effort. Change and real lasting change takes effort, sustained effort, recommitting yourself to your effort over and over and over, even when you fail. So I want you to think in terms today about your effort and what you're willing to do to truly initiate change. All right, so let's start with some tips here. So the first thing is, when I get a patient for the first time, when they talk about all the things that they want to change in their life, I really just ask them to pick one to start with. Pick one habit or one thing that you're interested in change versus several, because you may be setting yourself up for failure if you choose to take on multiple things at a time. So just pick one thing at a time, something even small. Starting smaller versus larger is always helpful to getting lasting change. So you may have a very large change that you're interested in adapting, but what you can do if it does feel ominous or large is break it down into numerous small changes so that you're really taking on a small task at a time. You may have heard of a book or of articles that are based around 21 days to successful changing your habits, or 21 days to XYZ. It's interesting, I can't find any research that says 21 days is some magical number that creates real change in people, because I don't see that happen in my office in just 3 short weeks. Change takes a lot longer than that. So whatever it is you're working on, I want you to think about 30, 60, 90 days, and then even 6 months to a year, and how that change can play out over the course of those chunks, over the course of those sort of milestone markings for yourself. 21 days really just isn't enough time. So scrap that idea if you've been, thinking it's going to be 21 days to some miracle, because I haven't found that yet. Write down whatever it is that you really want to change. People say, I just want to talk about it, and they think about it, but really a goal that is a written goal is a much more achievable goal, a stronger goal. Every single day of my life, I take a 3x5 card or a sticky note if I can't find one of these, and I write down what my goals are for the day. I always have a fitness, health, nutrition goal. I always have a Rotary goal, and then a personal or work-related goal. And oftentimes these daily goals are part of my longer, sort of like I said, my 30, 60, 90, 6-month goals. So what am I going to do today to reach that next step in my goal? Some of you who follow me on Facebook, you probably know I'm kind of a fitness buff, and I have some really big fitness goals for myself. So today might be workout with my personal trainer. One of my big goals right now is to learn how to do a pull-up. It's just something I want to do. It's not something I'm capable of yet, but that's my goal for the end of this month, is to be able to do 1 pull-up. And so what am I doing to work on that today? I have to write it down. A written goal is a stronger goal, and it increases your chance of accountability and success towards that goal if it's written. Now, I always like to keep mine too, right here on my computer screen, where I can see it all day long, so that I'm reminded about my goal, and it's constantly in my visual consciousness. Again, that creates a higher probability that I will attain my goal and reach my long-term goal. So write it down, keep it where you can see it. Now, It's best too if you break your plan down into motivations, obstacles, triggers, and rewards. Those 4 areas: motivations, obstacles, triggers, and rewards. These are 4 key components to successful change of habits. Let's talk a little bit about an obstacle. Okay, I'll use myself, fitness. Let's say my gym is 25 minutes away from my house. I would call that an obstacle because I'm probably not going to drive 25 minutes 5 to 6 days a week to get to the gym. So how do I remove that obstacle? Well, for me, I put a gym in my basement. I have everything I possibly need in my own home. That obstacle is now removed. So write a list of what your potential obstacles are. And you can oftentimes look at your failures to figure out what the obstacles are or what they were to why you didn't reach this goal before. That's a great place to sort of make an assessment about what are my obstacles. Now, again, myself being a fitness person, what would be a trigger for me? Well, believe it or not, Rotary luncheons, Rotary dinners are a big trigger for me because what is always at your seat when you arrive? That infamous piece of cheesecake that's just taunting you, staring at you the entire time that you're eating your meal. And it's like, it's calling my name. And yes, desserts are a trigger for me. I want to eat them. So I have a list of my triggers, my obstacles, and my possible triggers, whether if it's a weekly thing or a daily thing, or if it's an event, I write it down. And then I say to myself, how am I going to get past that trigger? So for cheesecake, for instance, I have a plan. My plan is this. I take 2 bites whenever I'm ready for it. 2 bites, just 2. And then what do? It's sitting there tempting me, right? Waitress is nowhere to be found, so she's not going to remove it, right? So what do I do with that trigger? Pass the salt and pepper, please. And when somebody does that, I shake it all over my cheesecake. I now can no longer eat the rest of that cheesecake. So that's the way I get through that trigger. I reward myself with a little taste of it, and then I move on by killing it, by squashing that cheesecake so I no longer want it. So knowing what I'm going to do, having a plan in advance prior to coming across that trigger is incredibly important to succeeding. So make sure you list your obstacles and your triggers. Now, motivations, I also mentioned motivations before. You really do need a strong motivation to really create effective change. If it's just a little, reason to change, you may not really be that motivated to go through with all of the things that you have to go through. So make sure your motivations are really strong and that they're personal, that they're not someone else's motivations. Figure out what your motivation is for fitness or quitting smoking or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Motivation is really important to how much effort you're going to put forward. All right. We're going to come back to rewards in a bit, so hang on to that thought about what your rewards might be. All right. Support systems. Do you feel like you have support for your changes? Does your spouse, your friends, your Rotary friends, do they all back you up? How do you know if they do? I find it incredibly helpful that I make the changes, if I can, public, that I tell people what I'm investing in, that what I'm doing, whether it be through Facebook or through a group of friends, through my colleagues at work, whatever it is, I tell people about what it is that I'm working on. Because once I tell people, they will usually A, help me stay accountable, and B, be my best cheerleaders. They want me to succeed. So they'll ask me, how am I doing? How close are you to that pull-up? How, did you work out yesterday? What have you been, tell me about your personal trainer. They will keep me thinking about it and talking about it in a way that is very rewarding to me and helps with my own motivation. So create a support system and try to be as public as you can, if you can. Sometimes our changes are private, but public accountability is helpful accountability. I find that very, very effective in affecting change in my life. Now, on the opposite end of a support system, you may have sabotagers. And of course, sometimes they are meaning well sabotagers, and sometimes they're not. So make a list of your sabotagers as well. Again, writing this down into your plan. When I started on this fitness journey a few months back, I decided that I was not going to have any wine or any alcohol for an entire month. So I had a dry month. And one of my biggest sabotagers is one of my best friends. And every Wednesday she calls me up and she says, "Hey, Mary, do you want to go to have wine at our favorite restaurant? It's half price wine night on Wednesdays." So we would always go on Wednesdays and drink wine and have dinner together. So I had to include Sharon as one of my sabotagers, even though I love her and adore her. So I said, "Sharon, I want you for the next 4 weeks to not invite me out to dinner because I'm not eating bad food and I'm not drinking any wine. And it would just be very hard for me to go out and not do that with you. So please don't invite me out." So I included her in my plan, and so that I would not be caught off guard by her inadvertent way of sabotaging my diet. And it worked. She was very, very supportive and able to do that. And that made me also able to predict and plan and prepare for when I did want to go out with Sharon and how I could incorporate that then after that first 30 days into my lifestyle and still, enjoy my time with Sharon, but on a limited basis. So, okay, I have a saying with most of my patients, and it is this: we are what we think. Really, it is so true. We are what we think. If we are thinking negative things about ourselves, we are going to feel negative. You actually don't feel anything until you've had a thought. So it starts with cognitions, and then you have feelings, and then typically behavior. So if you're having a lot of negative thoughts about yourself, "I can't do this, I'll never succeed, oh, I screwed up again," that's going to make you feel very bad. It's going to make you feel negative. And then I might actually have a behavior that supports that negative, bad feeling in me. So if I want to have a behavior that supports positively, then I need to be thinking positively. I need to be saying things like, "Okay, so you had cheesecake yesterday. So what? Today you're going to eat clean. Today you're going to not have anything that's no sugar today. And you're starting over. Big deal. You can do this. You've got this." Really talking myself into positive thinking will make me feel positive and will make me then behave positive. So you are what you think. So be very, very careful of negative self-talk, because that can derail our progress. Now, if you do find yourself feeling negative, I like to give it an overnight. So I tell myself, okay, before I behave negatively, if I still feel this way tomorrow, fine. But if I don't, great. So give it 12 hours overnight, and then reattack with a vengeance, whatever it is that you're working on, and just squash those negative thoughts like a bug. Try to do some thought replacements if you're really stuck in it, trying to replace the negative thoughts with positive things that you can think about. Even meditation can help to shift negative thoughts and to sort of reset yourself cognitively. There's also a technique called bilateral sound therapy. And you can just Google that, just Google bilateral sound, and you'll come up with all these beautiful engineered music and nature sounds. And then what you do with that is you put your earbuds in and you close your eyes and you listen to this music, and it goes from left to right ear. And you find that your eyes will track the sound, and that turns off all of your anxiety centers. And when you turn off your anxiety centers, your frontal lobe actually lights up, and this is where you do all your problem solving. So if you're finding yourself feeling very negative, upset, anxious about what you're working on, just try the bilateral sound for a few minutes, and that can really reset you and get you refocused again and sort of rid your mind of all that negative energy. Okay, so have you ever had an urge? So for me, again, oftentimes it's sugar. I have an urge to eat something sweet. And this typically happens for me usually after dinner, usually sometime between 7 and 8, and that's the worst possible time for me to be eating. So one of the ways that you can squash urges is by doing something behavioral that it sort of shifts your mindset. So you can take a brisk walk. You can do some short calisthenics, jumping jacks even. For me, I like to brush my teeth if I'm craving sugar, because once I've brushed my teeth or used mouthwash or something like that, I no longer want the sugar. But a brisk walk will also help. And so if you find yourself having an urge, try to find something that flips the urge into the opposite. And usually exercise is the best way, no matter what it is. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, even a brisk exercise can, again, shape your mindset differently. All right, let's go back to rewards. Now, I mentioned earlier that goals and change usually takes 30, 60, 90 days or longer. So what I like to do is have my patients or myself set up goals and rewards and kudos for those sort of milestones. So at 30 days, if you've stuck to your plan, what is your reward going to be? If you have a certain maybe weight that you're trying to get to, when you reach that weight, what will your goal be? What will your reward be, rather? And again, this is where you can involve some of your support system because those people who are your cheerleaders will want to be involved in that reward. So again, publicly celebrating milestones along the way. And this is where those short-term goals come into play. The more short-term goals you can set for yourself, the more rewards you can take along the way as well. So for me, I haven't reached my ultimate goal yet, but when I reach certain places, I might go out for dinner or eat a maple bacon donut or something like that, which I don't normally give myself along the way. So I look forward to that for the next 30 days. Or I look forward to that for the next couple of weeks. Sometimes it's just patting myself on the back to say I did it. And that's enough of a reward. But the more people you can involve in your rewards, again, the stronger the change will stick. All right, mantras. I'm sure there's a lot of great mantras. Whatever yours may be, find something that you can say to yourself over and over again, that when you're feeling like you're about to break your habit or you're about to fail in some way, or even when you do have minor setbacks or failures, something you can say to yourself that boosts the way you feel about yourself. That's something you can say to yourself that reminds you about your effort and your stick-to-itness. A friend of mine was quitting smoking, and she would say, "Not one puff, not one puff, not one puff." And she would say it over and over and over, especially when she was craving a cigarette. And that mantra got her through some of those times when she was craving. I started to run last year, and I finally realized that, the first mile was a lie. I always felt terrible in the first mile, like I couldn't do 3. There's no way I can do 3. So I started to remind myself through that first mile, the first mile is a lie. The first mile is a lie, because I knew once I reached mile 2, I actually started to find my rhythm, my cadence, and it got easier actually. Mile 1 was always hard, and I always wanted to stop. So if I reminded myself that this is a lie, this is going to feel a lot better in about 10 minutes, I can get through this first mile, then I would go on to usually run 3. So the first mile is a lie. A friend of mine who's working out with me, his mantra for his workouts is gas station ready. He listened to a podcast once where they were talking about bodybuilding and being to the point of, having the kind of muscles and the strength that it would take that if you were attacked at a gas station, you'd be ready. So his mantra is, I'm going to be gas station ready someday. He wants to have that kind of strength of being gas station ready. So whatever your mantra is that works for you, that one doesn't work for me so much, but whatever works for you, find something that is easy to say that'll push you through even when you're struggling. All right, so I want you to remember too that failures sometimes are our best friends. When we find that we've had a failure or a setback, sometimes that's the best thing that can happen to us to reach our goal, because it gives us a chance to reanalyze A, what our motivation is, B, what our triggers are, and our obstacles and why you failed. That is such important information. What happened along the way that got in my way? So now I have really powerful information to apply. And so all I have to do at that point is revisualize what my goal is, get a vivid picture in my mind, set a new neural pathway with that visualization, put that trigger or obstacle or whatever it was that happened that made me fail, assess my effort. Was it just me? Did I give up? And reinitiate my plan. I think the most important key to becoming effective in your change is to renew your commitment often. If it's hourly, daily, or weekly, renewing your commitment over and over and over is incredibly important to the process of change. That's often why people come to see a therapist and come more than just once. You know, they come once a week or every other week because we need to renew the commitment to what they're working on. I think daily logs and weekly logs really do help in this process. Keeping things written down, again, strengthens your commitment over and over. Rereading your plan from the very beginning, making subtle changes to your plan as you go along, celebrating those successes and making adjustments to your failures as needed. Hiccups and potholes are to be expected, so plan for them, prepare for them, and know how you're going to react to them when they happen, and then get back on that horse and start riding again. It's no problem to start over again. You can start over right now. You don't have to wait for tomorrow. Just figure out where you went wrong and reassess and readjust and get back going. All right, so those are kind of my overview of what I work with my patients to help them to create lasting change in their lives. I would love to open it up for questions in the chat box if you'd like, or live. I'm not sure how you all would like to do it, but usually I get lots of questions around this topic. So does anybody have questions?
Anybody here at the window? We have Don Bugos manning the microphone today, so please raise your hand. And Don will come your way with your questions for our esteemed speaker today, Dr. Mary Berge. Anybody with a question? This has happened the last couple of weeks. Come on, let's change, everybody. And if you have a question and you're watching on Zoom, please type it into the chat box and we will go ahead and put you on. It looks like someone does have a question. And Don, on his horse, getting over there quickly. Who do we have?
I don't have a question. I have a statement. You were terrific. I started to listen to you and went, oh, here's another program. Wrong. I learned a lot. You're terrific.
Thank you so much. You just made my day.
Thank you. We have an online question for you via Zoom from Jenny. How do you deal with the setback?
Well, again, I find setbacks to be powerful. They usually give me some piece of information that I did not have before or did not maybe think about before. So I don't find setbacks to be necessarily negative. They may make me feel bad initially, but I take a look at it, I analyze it, and I say, okay, setback. What do I need to do now to readjust and to just be, forgive myself? You've got to be kind to yourself. Don't kick yourself for a setback. Just chalk it up to like life. Okay, it was a bad day, move on. I'm a big believer in being mindfully present in our lives. The more mindful we are, the less anxious and depressed we are. So a setback, look at it as power, look at it as information, and utilize that so you don't make the same mistake twice. It is powerful information if you analyze it.
We have a very deep question from Zoom from Deborah Newell. Is it better to look at a behavior for change and identify the steps, or to identify the goal and identify the behavioral change steps needed that you need to occur?
Okay, let's see here. Is it better? So I think that depends on the issue. There are some issues where we really do need to look at the behavior for change and identify what the steps are. Sometimes they go hand in hand. Knowing what the goal is, can help to identify the steps. But, whatever works best for you. I don't think there's just an easy answer to that. It's whatever works best for you. Your the goal is the goal is the goal. So if you want to look at the behavior and then identify the steps, and that's going to work for you, great. But if you really have this great motivation of what you want to occur, that might actually guide you to say, well, what do I need to do? Like for me, for working out. So if I were just to say I want to work out more, that's my, I could certainly delineate steps for that. But I know the way I want to look, like I know how I want my body to be stronger. I know what kind of, shape I want to have. I know what I want my muscles to look like in my mind. So having my end goal in mind certainly will make me, I think, delineate working out more as a part of the behavioral change versus being the change. So, whether you take it from the back forward or from forward back to the end, I don't know if it matters, just as long as it feels right to you.
Great answer. I want my body to look like Captain America, but a few pints get in the way once in a while. Eric Jewell is online with us today via Zoom. He says, what happens when you fall short of your goal, but you gave it all you had? How do you deal with that?
Okay, that's a great question. So I would say check your goal to see if it was too lofty. Maybe, I'm 53 years old. I'm never going to be a bodybuilder, or, never going to, there's going to be certain things that just aren't going to happen for a 53-year-old woman. So was my goal too lofty, or do I just want to be fit? A pull-up I think is within my range, but what if I was setting my goal for the end of October to be 3 pull-ups? There's no way in heck I'm going to be able to do 3 pull-ups in the next, 2.5 weeks? I've got 11 days.
You can do it.
To 1 though. I can. I'm so close. It may not even be a pretty pull up, but you know what? If I just get my chin to that bar, I'm going to feel great. But maybe my next goal thereafter will be a pretty pull up, one that's a little more smooth, a little stronger, maybe 2 by December. So check your goal to make sure it wasn't too lofty or just out of really the reach. And then again, set your goal to be a little bit less and give it your all. And then reach that goal and say, okay, can I do that next goal now? So that would be my piece of advice there.
Let's go back out to our crowd assembled here at the Wyndham Garden Hotel. Don, who do we have? Please identify yourself and then your question.
Hi, Brendan Shortley. It sounds like a lot of your behaviors involve reinforcement and or punishment. Do you ascribe more to classical conditioning, operant conditioning, or are you just more into what you were talking about with your cheesecake, which is to disrupt the behavior with the salt on the thing so you can't touch it again?
All of the above. I do it all, classical, operant, and, like you said, just disrupting. Distraction and disruption is great, but conditioning does work. So, someone even put in the chat box, what do you do if how do I reward myself for only taking those 2 bites or those 4 bites? The reward is intrinsic too. Feel proud of myself is one of the strongest rewards that there is. So it doesn't even have to be a physical reward. I subscribe to everything, as many possible ways to attain goals as possible. Conditioning certainly does work. But, I think that, again, you're going to know by looking at your failures, maybe whatever type of conditioning you were doing before may not. Punishment doesn't work real well with me. What works really well with me is a reward system, is acknowledgement, and finding out what kind of reward works best, whether it's something like physical or whether it's someone saying, you look good, wow, I can tell you've lost 10 pounds. That's the kind of reward that works better for me than, say, eating a donut. So figuring out what feels good for you when you get it, make that part of your conditioning.
Mary, you mentioned motivation, obstacles, triggers, rewards. Where does willpower factor into the equation? In our home, for example, if there's a cold beer in the fridge, trouble for daddy. If there's dessert, like ice cream in the freezer, the rest of the family says, you shouldn't have bought that because we're going to eat it. Where does willpower factor in?
Yeah, so we can't get rid of every trigger, can we? We all live with other people. We don't exist in a vacuum. So there may be a bottle of wine in my refrigerator or a cheesecake that I'm not going to resist. And that's true. So willpower is a big deal. And that's where I come back to the word effort. Sometimes I have to say no and not like it. Sometimes I have to say yes and not like it, to whatever it is. So whatever, sometimes you just have to walk away or say no. This is again where you can do something physical to disrupt or to distract yourself. So you want that beer and you say, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go run for 15 minutes, or I'm going to go exercise for 10 minutes, or I'm going to go brush my teeth, or whatever it is. And if I still want it an hour from now, I'll renegotiate at that point. But if you can hold off on urges for even 15 minutes, oftentimes they will pass, more often than you believe. So saying to yourself, all right, I'll give it 15 minutes. All right, I made that 15 minutes. Let me get a half an hour. And then if I still want it, we'll go then. Typically your urges will pass. You know, in the 12-step programs that you see for like drug and alcohol rehabs, I used to work in these programs. There was the saying, one day at a time. You just don't drink one day at a time. And, you know, some of my patients, I would say 1 hour at a time. You just don't drink for 1 hour at a time. Others would be for 10 minutes. And if you can get past those increments, you usually will pass up the urge.
Just so you know, when you said renegotiate, everyone here had a good laugh about that. Renegotiate with yourself on that. Anyone else with a question online? We have a lot of LOLs, and hey, someone said salt the wine, and someone corrected, says, no, that's for a margarita.
Cute. Okay, someone asked me, what about eating half of a sandwich instead of the whole thing? Absolutely. You know, choice making is a big part of these sorts of habit changes. That kind of goes back to what a few of you were asking about before, you know, making some good choices for yourself. You know, when I go to my own Rotary Club meeting, do I have a salad? Do I bring my own dressing? You know, things like that. Planning ahead helps me to make better choices. Absolutely.
We've talked a lot about staying in shape and making better choices nutritionally. I would imagine it takes a lot more preparation for more complex issues that you might be dealing with, that you have to really change.
Yeah, absolutely. And typically people who come to see me are dealing with things that are a bit more complex, but the process is really the same. You know, figuring out what the behavior is or the issue that they want to change, deciding how bad do they want it, to what lengths are they willing to go to get it, and then developing a plan. And that plan often includes physiological things that they're going to do, behavioral things that they're going to do, changing the mindset. Their thought process is almost number one. What are their cognitions about the thing that they want to change? And there's a lot of negative thoughts out there. A lot of people do a lot of, you know, kicking of themselves. And so oftentimes I'll start with, let me hear what your thoughts are about this issue. You know, this is going to be so hard, or I don't know if I really want to do this. And so sometimes we have to start there.
Let's go back out to the crowd assembled here at the Wyndham Garden Hotel. Please state your name and your question out there.
Thank you. My name's Greg Young, and my question is, how large a role does visualization of reaching your end product goal is part of that process?
Well, I think visualization is a very big key factor, actually. When we see it in our minds, our brains can actually begin to believe it. You know, your hippocampus is where we sort of store a lot of our memories, and sometimes our memories can be created. So if I see myself in a particular way, my brain may begin to believe that I am going to be that particular person. So visualizing what I want to look like, or how I want to feel, or you know, what my strength will be, my brain begins to create that neural pathway and will begin to, you know, help me to believe it myself. So visualization is a strong way to improve your ability to get where you want to go. And it also helps you to overcome urges or failures. So when you're on the brink of breaking a habit, or I'm sorry, failing to break your habit or what have you, revisualizing, you know, your motivation and how you want to be at the end of this, where you want to be, who you want to be, can help you to remain strong. So I actually believe in visualization quite strongly.
We have time for one more question. I think this is a good one to wrap up on. It's from Jenny Van Hart again. Dr. Berge, what is the best way to be an account-a-buddy for a friend?
That's a great question. I love that term, account-a-buddy. Yeah, so how do you be a cheerleader for someone else? I think the best way is to have a regular check-in, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, to be able to sit down with that person either on Zoom or over coffee and to say, how's it going? To also tell them what you see them doing differently, to remind them, why they have initiated this change, and just support them. Talk about the goals and talk about the successes and help them with their failures. When they're feeling down and when they're feeling like they haven't done so great this week or what have you, just be there for them, an ear. But you bring it up as the buddy. Don't wait for them to bring it up.
Round of applause, everybody.
My pleasure.
What a great,
my pleasure.
What a great presentation, Dr. Mary Berge. We really appreciate it. As you know, as a good Rotarian, this year's theme is Rotary Opens Opportunities. And if you do not have, I'd love to send you as a token to remember today, you sharing with us this year's theme coin. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that you could share with us today and enlighten opportunities and ways that we could all improve. And if we're looking for that, and giving us those tools. So thank you again. What a great presentation, and an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Pierce, strong second place screensaver. Only second to Toby Monaco because his picture looks like a place I really would love to be right now. It was this nice like fall scene, fall trees on a lake. So it was definitely enticing. So Toby wins that award today. Reminder of program next week. If you have not heard, there's an upcoming election, and our very own TJ Pache will give us an update on logistics, not politics, logistics, and look forward to that. So thank you, TJ. 4 points and a quote. It kind of sounds like a pastor, but remember, ethics and business nominations, service above self nominations, reading safari. Thank you for that update, Marcia. And then the Vibrant Club seminar this Saturday. Quote of the day is, and I have always like Dr. Mary Berge, I had like 2 or 3 each week that I'm not sure about, and Tom prepares great quotes. In the very beginning of the chat, there was a great debate about your cheesecake and how many people would have just ate the whole thing right at the very beginning, or who would have taken it from you and finished it, or other things. So with that said, all great change in America begins at the dinner table. Ronald Reagan. Have a great week.